Imagine a cyber criminal slipping into your laptop one tiny line of code at a time, until one morning you wake up to find your hard drive replaced with a "thou shalt not" firewall. That, my friends, is exactly what centuries-old Christian indoctrination does to a human mind, except the hacker never leaves a trace, and the malware comes with free salvation for a price you can't even see. Strap in, because we're about to debug the greatest operating system of spiritual control ever sold: the Christian belief system. Welcome to Secular Strike Back. I'm Toothless Grin Kim. When you first meet a hacker, you picture a hoodie-clad prodigy typing furiously. The reality? Most of the damage is done by tiny, seemingly harmless snippets. An innocuous "click here" or a "download this free ebook." Christianity works the same way. The first incursion is usually harmless. Sunday school, let's learn why the world was created in 6 days. Family prayers, say the Lord's Prayer before dinner. Feel-good hymns, sing Amazing Grace. It's just a song, right? Each of these tiny updates appears benign, maybe even comforting. Yet, they're payloads that gradually overwrite the operating system of your identity, values, and autonomy. By the time you've internalized the whole package, the guilt, the sinful nature, the need for salvation, you might finally notice that you're running a version of life whose source code you never wrote. Think of it like installing a game on your phone that asks for access to contact location and your mother's maiden name. You click accept. Months later, you're stuck playing Mortal Sin, the endless quest for forgiveness. And you can't uninstall it because the developer, aka the church, has locked the delete button behind a confession. If you've ever stopped at a 24-hour gas station after a long drive, you know the hissing of the pump, the smell of cheap gasoline, and the fleeting relief of a full tank. Religious practice is, drum roll, exactly that. Worship services, fuel top up. Daily prayers, mini pump jacks. Confession and penance, oil change for the soul. The problem? This is no fuel for a well-maintained engine. It's a drug-like hit that gives you a temporary buzz. Think of a nicotine patch that keeps you from feeling withdrawal, but never lets you quit. The more you refuel, the deeper the dependency, and the less you remember how to run on your own internal combustion of reason. If a Christian were a car, they'd be a 1998 Honda Civic with a Jesus Certified sticker, constantly pulling into Salvation Station for a free refill of Grace gas. The dashboard light? A flashing "sin detected" icon that never turns off, no matter how many miles you drive. You've heard the phrase, ideas are contagious. In evolutionary biology, a memetic virus is a cultural unit that replicates, mutates, and spreads, just like a computer virus. but with a theological twist. Transmission. Parents then transmit to children and pastors who transmit it to congregations, Netflix documentaries, and then transmits it to millions. Mutation. Original doctrine which mutates into, say, the prosperity gospel, young earth creationism, and a literal hell. Amplification, such as social media algorithms pushing the most emotionally charged memes to the top of the feed. The result, a bewildering proliferation of denominations, each a slightly different strain of the same original virus. The core payload remains: you're sinful, you need a savior. You'll be rewarded if you obey, and punished if you don't. Picture a family reunion where the great-grandma hands out sins in a bag party favors, each sealed with a tiny note that reads, "Open when you feel guilty." The cousins trade hellmouth trading cards, while the aunt flips through the Book of Eternal Judgment like a glossy fashion catalog. The entire gathering is a viral spread party, and the only antidote is critical thinking, which, let's be honest, no one brought. Cognitive psychologists talk about System 1 being that of intuition versus System 2, analysis. So System 1, the intuition, is fast, automatic, and loves stories, especially the ones that give us a neat good versus evil narrative. Now System 2, the analysis, is slower, demands evidence, and often refuses to accept faith-based shortcuts. Christian doctrines exploit System 1. Dualist mind-body notion? Your soul is pure. Your flesh is the devil's playground. Supernatural narratives? Miracles happen when you believe enough. System 2, however, sees the cracks. Brain imaging shows God spots in the temporal lobes lighting up during intense prayer. Not proof of a deity, just evidence of neural activity. Near-death experiences are often linked to cerebral hypoxia, a short circuit in the brain's oxygen supply, not a portal to the afterlife. Scientists are split. Some argue religious experiences are hardwired. Others say they're culturally conditioned. Regardless of the side you pick, the core point stands. Subjective perception does not equal objective truth. If System 1 were a cheap fast food drive-thru, it would gladly hand you a holy cheeseburger with a side of sinful fries. System 2 is the nutritionist in the back kitchen, shouting, "Those calories are a lie!" Let's get a bit nerdy. Modern neuroscience has identified temporal lobe activity, God spots, that correlates with mystical experiences. Hypoxia-induced visions during cardiac arrest that many claim are glimpses of heaven. If you're wondering whether these are signs of an afterlife, consider the alternative. Your brain is a sophisticated pattern recognizer, constantly scaffolding stories to make sense of random noise. When the brain's oxygen drops, it throws a party of hallucinations. The brain then labels these internal fireworks with whatever cultural script it's been fed. Usually, God, for Christians. So the evidence for God, just a malfunctioning projector in the brain's cinema. The script, written by the same cultural forces that sold you the God app in the first place. Now let's talk about the psychological side effects. Many Christians grow up hearing, "You're a sinner, forever broken."
Oh my God.
God will punish you if you stray. Your pain is a test from the Almighty.
What?
These messages are emotional landmines. Over time, they can produce a condition psychologists call religious trauma syndrome, otherwise known as RTS, a PTSD-like constellation of shame, panic attacks, nightmares, and chronic guilt. Studies link such fear-driven doctrines to higher rates of depression and anxiety.
Oh my God.
Internalized homophobia, transphobia, because the scriptures are weaponized to justify discrimination. Lower life satisfaction. The "you're damned unless you obey" narrative leaves little room for joy. In short, when faith becomes a weapon rather than a comfort, it turns into a psychological poison masquerading as love.
Wow.
Imagine a therapist's office where the client says, "I'm terrified of eternal damnation." The therapist replies, "Well, let's try a secular exposure therapy. Maybe we'll swap that burning pit for a nice warm blanket of rationality."
Let's go.
The client, after weeks of therapy, finally says, "I think my biggest fear is actually my own guilt, not a flaming pit with a sign that says 'Welcome to hell.'" All of these points cover a simple truth. Belief is a perception, not a fact. Perception can be biased, induced, or outright fabricated. Proof requires reproducible, falsifiable evidence. Christianity offers stories that feel true because they're wrapped in cultural conditioning and neuropsychological shortcuts. The fact that millions find them convincing does not prove their objective reality, just as the fact that billions watch a Hollywood blockbuster doesn't make the plot factual. If a claim cannot be tested, falsified, or demonstrated, why give it any authority over our lives? Because we're taught to think otherwise. The faith first mantra is just a glossy ad for a product we never asked for. In conclusion, we've peeled back the layers. Tiny hacks that steal autonomy. Fuel station rituals that keep you addicted. Memetic viruses that mutate across centuries. Cognitive shortcuts that make the absurd feel intuitive. Neuroscience that shows the brain is the magician, not a deity. Fear-based doctrines that cause real, measurable trauma. The takeaway? Religion is a clever software suite designed to keep you plugged in, dependent, and frightened. The good news? You have the source code to uninstall. If this video helped you see the logic behind the hacking, the fuel station, and the memetic virus, do the following. Share this video with anyone you know who's wrestling with faith or who's stuck in a religious echo chamber. Comment below with your own hacking stories. What was the first tiny incursion that made you question? Like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the psychology of belief, the neuroscience of mysticism, and the art of rational living. Let's keep the conversation going, keep the critical thinking muscles flexed, and most importantly, keep unplugging from the spiritual Wi-Fi that tries to keep us forever connected to the God cloud. If you live in the United States and you enjoy this podcast and would like to support it, please consider making a $3 monthly donation by going to my Patreon and becoming a member. The link is in the description below. And I also now have a newsletter. The link to subscribe to that is also in the description below. And remember, the only thing that should be holy in our lives is the search for truth. Until next time, stay skeptical, stay rational, and keep laughing at the cosmic comedy of it all.